Welcome to Premier League Match Pack, your weekly guide to all the stats that matter. So far, 140 games have been played, with Chelsea extending their lead at the top of the table. A season-high 37 goals were scored during match week 14, taking the overall tally to 398. Christian Benteke became the fourth player to score a Premier League goal on his birthday this term, joining Laurent Koscielny, Mesut Ozil and Nolito. While just two of our teams recorded away wins last time out, taking the overall tally to 42, down 7 from this stage last season.
Manchester United's season continues to stutter. Against Everton, Zlatan Ibrahimovic put them within sight of an important win. But once again, they failed to see the game out and are now 9 points off the top 4. Much to Jose Mourinho's frustration, United are developing an unhelpful habit of conceding late on. It's a costly one. They've seen a league-high 7 points slip away as a result of goals they've shipped in the final 10 minutes of matches. Mourinho needs his side to improve on that front and start converting draws into wins. 6 times United have had to settle for a point this season. Along with Middlesbrough and their opponents this weekend, Tottenham Hotspur, they're the division's draw specialists.
At the moment, they look a little bit stagnant. They look not as fluid as they need to be, especially playing with someone like Ibrahimovic up front, who is not going to run in behind. He wants the ball into feet, so I think it's going to be about getting the best out of their best players.
Sunday would be a good time for United to get into their flow, as Spurs promise to be dangerous opponents at Old Trafford. Having destroyed Swansea City last time out, the men from White Hart Lane travel to Manchester with their confidence restored. In that 5-0 win, Harry Kane, fresh from signing a new long-term deal, struck twice, and in the process became the most prolific goalscorer in Tottenham's Premier League history in terms of minutes per goal. Some notable names have played up front for the North London club down the years, but Spurs' current number 10 ranks above them all.
He's someone who will now be looked at as a leader, and sign this new contract ties him to the club for a long period of time and lets everybody know that he is going to be there for the long term. The only issue would be how much they rely on Harry Kane, and the more support he can get, the better.
That support could well come from Christian Eriksen. The midfielder endured a frustrating start to the season, failing to find the net with any of his first 23 attempts on goal. But the Dane's shown a marked improvement in his shooting since then. He broke his duck with a stunning strike at Chelsea a fortnight ago and added 2 more goals last time out. Manchester United may look to Henrikh Mkhitaryan for their creativity. The Armenian, signed off the back of a stunning season in Germany for Borussia Dortmund, has found Premier League opportunities limited. But he's given fans encouraging glimpses of his quality in some of United's recent cup games.
He's a type of player who's not going to necessarily be doing the defensive work as well as Mourinho would like. So that means that other players are going to have to balance off for him. One thing that is not in doubt is his attacking quality, and if they can get him into that side and give him the opportunity to drift into these little pockets of space that he's so adept at doing, then he could be a big player for Man United going forward.
United could also benefit if Michael Carrick features. Happy to sit in front of the back 4 and allow the more attack-minded players to push forward, the former Spurs man's had a positive impact in the games that he's played. United haven't lost this season when he's been on the pitch. While Carrick seems to be a good omen for United, the same can be said of Toby Alderweireld at Spurs. The defender got injured in October, but returned to action in the Champions League this week and could start at Old Trafford. A major boost. Tottenham concede fewer goals and collect more points on average with the Belgian in the team.
In my opinion, he's been the best defender in the league for almost 18 months now, and they miss him terribly when he's not in the team, almost as much as they miss Harry Kane. So him come back into that team when he does will be a huge lift for everybody involved in Tottenham.
With or without Alderweireld, Spurs will want to end a disappointing run of results on the road. The victory at Middlesbrough in September was the last time they won on their travels, and they've scored just 3 goals in the 4 away games since. Hardly an ideal record ahead of a trip to Old Trafford, but as the home side know a defeat would cut them further adrift in the hunt for a top 4 spot, most of the pressure will be on United and their beleaguered boss.
I think there'll be some excellent football. I think Harry Kane is capable of scoring goals at any moment. Paul Pogba has the quality. Zlatan can always score goals. Rashford is always a goal threat. But I think these two sides may somewhat cancel each other out in an entertaining game, and I'm going to go for a draw.
With 3 defeats in their last 4 league games, Leicester City will be glad to be back at the King Power Stadium this weekend, as 12 of their 13 points have come at home. Visitors Manchester City have enjoyed their travels, winning 6 of their 7 games on the road. However, they'll be without the suspended Sergio Aguero for the trip to the reigning champions. Claudio Ranieri's side have struggled to hit the heights of last season, and they've been particularly poor with their dribbling. The Foxes have the lowest success rate in the league, completing under half of their dribbles, with Riyad Mahrez especially struggling, with 48 of those unsuccessful attempts. With Fernandinho also suspended, Yaya Touré's resurgence has come at a perfect time. The Ivorian made an instant impact by scoring twice on his return, and he also boasts City's joint highest passing accuracy of players to attempt at least 100 passes.
He looks so much leaner and fitter and in turn hungrier to go and prove himself, still a top quality player. I think his desire was lacking last season, and you saw that in his performances, but when at his best and when fit, he's still a top class player, and someone that Guardiola would be delighted to have within his squad.
The two sides are equal in their head-to-head record, but in April 2004 both teams were fighting relegation. They fought out a draw which turned out to be enough for the citizens to stay up. However, it wasn't the same for Leicester, as they were left rueing their late penalty miss and were eventually relegated at the end of the season.
If Chelsea are the team of the moment, the individual catching the eye is Diego Costa. His opener at the Etihad Stadium was his 11th of the season and his first ever Premier League goal against title rivals Manchester City. It means the fiery forward's now scored against 20 of the 23 top-flight teams he's faced since arriving at the West London club. Antonio Conte is the first Chelsea manager to win 8 consecutive Premier League games in a single season since Jose Mourinho in the 2006-07 campaign. So far, the Italian suffered just 1 home defeat, restoring Stamford Bridge's reputation as a devilishly difficult place to go. While the Blues can rely on Costa, their opponents West Bromwich Albion have Matt Phillips in arguably the form of his life. The midfielder's had a hand in 6 goals in his last 4 Premier League appearances, with the Baggies' overall tally now standing at 20. They've only scored more goals at this stage of the competition once in their Premier League history. That's helped Albion achieve their best start since that 2012-13 campaign. They've moved up to 7th in the table with just 2 defeats in their last 10 league games. Away from the Hawthorns, they're proving to be extremely resolute. Having lost only twice on the road, West Brom could be a tough nut for the leaders to crack.
After 6 straight Premier League defeats, Alan Pardew's Crystal Palace finally stopped the rot with a much-needed 3-0 win over Southampton to put clear daylight between them and the bottom 3. There were areas of improvement on the pitch in that game, despite Palace seeing less of the ball. The Eagles managed to halve the amount of shots on target from their opponents from the average in their previous 6 games. They also kept their first clean sheet in 19 league outings. It certainly relieved the pressure on Alan Pardew, though there is still work to be done.
It was against a Southampton side that on any given day can beat anyone in the Premier League, but at the same time they are a little bit flaky and a little bit weak where they can lose against anyone. So I wouldn't read too much into the win regarding style or sort of substance for Crystal Palace, but sometimes you've just got to get the win. Sometimes it doesn't matter how it comes, and I think Alan Pardew will recognise that. He'll be honest enough to analyse that.
One thing that can be admired about Pardew's side is their willingness to fight until the final whistle. Only Arsenal have found the net more in the last 10 minutes of games than Palace this season. They might find comfort then that no side has conceded more in that time frame than weekend opponents Hull City.
If you're scoring goals, then obviously it's great because it doesn't really tell you the tape of how the game's going, because you could be launching balls in the box with a minute to go and just trying to scrap for something. So it shows that there's a fighting spirit there, Crystal Palace. Alan Pardew hasn't lost that dressing room just yet, but the worry is if you concede in late goals, that will damage you over a period of time.
It's not just conceding late on that's hampering Hull. They've let in the opening goal in 12 of their 14 games this season, more than any other side in the competition. Mike Phelan will need his team to tighten up at the back if they have any hope of preserving their top-flight status come May. The Tigers' last line of defence of late has been David Marshall. The Scottish goalkeeper has featured 9 times in the league since signing from Cardiff City in the summer, though has had to pick the ball out of his net 22 times and is yet to keep a clean sheet, unlike Eldin Jakupovic, who can also boast a higher save percentage.
If you're Hull and you've got 2 goalkeepers that are very good, but you don't know which one's your number one, and both of them are making mistakes at the same time, sometimes you've got to look at the bigger picture. Are they getting overworked? Is the back four protecting the goalkeeper? I think not. I think that's where Hull are sitting struggling at the bottom of the league and they're sitting inside the bottom 3.
Aiming to help breach Hull's defence is likely to be Jason Puncheon. The midfielder has more Premier League assists than any other Palace player in the competition's history and is, on average, seeing more of the ball and creating more chances per game this season than ever before in an Eagles shirt. But turning into more of a scoring threat would be of benefit all round.
When you look at Crystal Palace, I think you look at the players at the top end of the pitch, Puncheon playing in the 10. He has to do a little bit more. I like him as an individual. He's a good player. Maybe it's just a confidence thing running throughout the side, but him alongside Benteke or just a little bit deeper, I think could pay dividends for Crystal Palace.
These sides have faced each other just 4 times in the Premier League. In the 2 seasons in which both have been in the division together, one team has gone on to do the double over the other without conceding. This time, survival is top of the priority list. Pardew will need to improve his record against the Tigers in the top flight. He's beaten Hull City just once in the competition as an opposition manager, but some suggest he might just get what he wants as he takes charge of his 300th Premier League game.
It's a hard one to call. I think on paper you'd look at Crystal Palace. They have got the better individuals. I'm just not sure defensively if Crystal Palace can keep a clean sheet. So I see Hull scoring, but I think Palace might just win it 2-1.
Unbeaten in 13 Premier League games, Arsenal are back up to second in the league following a dominant win over West Ham. Add that to a midweek Champions League success and they're in fine fettle as they welcome Stoke City, another team continuing to improve. Mark Hughes' side have collected 16 points from their last 7 matches, conceding just 3 goals in that time. There's still plenty of scope to do even better, especially it seems in wide areas. From open play, City have provided the second lowest amount of successful crosses. Xherdan Shaqiri's balls in from the flanks have been particularly poor. Only 6% of his crosses reach their target. Defensively, Stoke need to be on their toes against a man everyone's talking about. A stunning hat-trick last week made Alexis Sanchez the league's joint top scorer. The Chilean is relishing his central role, also leading the way in terms of the Gunners' assists, chances created and dribbles.
Now, if you're big, strong, strapping Ryan Shawcross, you don't want to be coming up against Alexis Sanchez, who's darting everywhere, making good runs, low centre of gravity. He'd much rather come up against Giroud, I feel. So I think Wenger will persevere with Sanchez up front.
Stoke have found Sanchez too hot to handle before. Back in January 2015, he scored twice to lead the Gunners to a comfortable victory. Arsene Wenger's side have dominated this fixture at the Emirates, winning every meeting in the Premier League. Last season, it was their first home win of the campaign, secured by substitute Olivier Giroud.
Our Match Pack question this week is all about those long-range experts, as we're asking which Premier League player has scored the most goals from outside the box. As always, we'll reveal the answer later in the show.
Eddie Howe takes his Bournemouth side to former club Burnley this weekend, still on a high following their remarkable comeback victory over Liverpool. That was the first time the Cherries have managed to recover a 2-goal deficit to win in the Premier League and continued their strong start to the campaign. Howe's men are 8 points better off than at this stage last season. Despite a blip in conceding 3 times against the Reds, that improvement's largely been down to a more resilient defence that's conceded 8 fewer goals and kept 3 more clean sheets.
They've got energy in midfield with the likes of Harry Arter and Gosling, who help in a defensive aspect. And knowing Eddie Howe and how he works, he expects the defender to start from the front. So I think it was the area that Eddie Howe would like to have strengthened or been better this time around.
Being able to field a settled side has no doubt helped the manager. Only Chelsea and West Bromwich Albion have made fewer than Bournemouth's 16 alterations to their starting lineup. Compare that to 25 changes at the same point last year. The Cherries' displays have been all the more impressive given the lack of top-flight experience in their ranks. The players who featured this season have collectively made fewer than 1,000 Premier League appearances between them. And there's only one man among them who's appeared in the competition more than 100 times, Arsenal loanee Jack Wilshere. Even so, nothing seems to faze this squad.
I was part of an Ipswich team that got promoted, and our first season in the Premier League we finished 5th. And there was a lot of players in that squad that got promoted who hadn't played in the Premier League previously. So I don't think it's a necessity that you know what the Premier League's all about, and you have to have all that experience, because I think it's a new challenge for the players, and I think that the Bournemouth players in particular have really risen to that challenge.
In the way this weekend, hoping to halt Bournemouth's momentum, will be Michael Keane and Ben Mee. Both are in the division's top 3 when it comes to headed clearances and blocks, making the Burnley centre-backs prominent figures this campaign. They don't know yet whether they'll have to face former Claret junior Stanislas, who's fighting to be fit after injuring his ankle last time out. The Bournemouth winger's been directly involved in 6 goals this season, his best figures for a single Premier League campaign, despite playing just 9 games so far. The arrival of club record signing Jordan Ibe may have threatened his place, but Stanislas has responded in style.
There was a lot of pressure on him coming into this season. Where does he fit in? What position does he play? But he's really taken the opportunity. I mean, he's playing some great stuff right now, and every time I've seen him, he's looked at a real threat to the opposition's defence.
A less conventional threat Burnley will have to contend with is Steve Cook. His goal against Liverpool was his 6th since the start of last season. Crystal Palace's Scott Dann is the only defender who's scored more in that time. Given that Sean Dyche's side have faced more shots on target than any other Premier League team this season, Cook and his teammates will sense an opportunity to inflict a 4th consecutive defeat on the Clarets. Dyche, though, should be encouraged by his team's record on their home ground. Burnley have picked up 93% of their points at Turf Moor, the highest proportion of points won at home in the division. It's another chance for the Cherries to demonstrate how much they've progressed, and after last week, they'll believe anything's possible.
If you're looking at quality, I think that Bournemouth perhaps edge it over Burnley. So whilst Burnley have got a great home record, I just think that Bournemouth are a side that are playing with confidence and have got great quality in the side. So I think Bournemouth might come out on top.
Jurgen Klopp will be hoping his Liverpool side's collapse at Bournemouth last weekend is quickly forgotten, as the result left them 4 points off table toppers Chelsea. Alarm bells are ringing for West Ham United as they crept closer to the relegation zone last weekend, having now conceded 12 goals in their last 5 games. Slaven Bilic's side have been their own worst enemy at times, making more errors leading to goals than any other team. Their players have made 6 critical mistakes this season, with 3 of those coming in their last 4 matches, all from different players.
It shows West Ham are a team a little bit low in confidence. They've had a very mixed start to the season, and coming up against the likes of Liverpool, who do press you in numbers and with speed. Oppositions, in this case West Ham, are prone to error. And as I say, confidence is not what it should be.
After a shaky start to his Liverpool career, Dejan Lovren has been heavily involved in the Reds' play this season. Only Jordan Henderson has played more passes for the club than the defender, who's contributed over double the amount than he had at this stage last year. This fixture has produced plenty of action in recent times, with 19 goals coming from their last 6 meetings. And despite Liverpool's dominance in the head-to-head record, West Ham got 3 of those goals in the last meeting at Anfield, as they picked up their first ever away win in the Premier League against Liverpool.
Swansea City have slipped to the bottom of the table after the joint worst defeat in their Premier League history, and their fans could be forgiven for wondering where it's all gone wrong. It's the first time they've conceded 4 or more goals twice in a row in the highest division, and the Swans have now let in 31 overall, 12 more than at this stage last season. Having managed just 1 clean sheet in their last 13 league matches, it's little wonder Swansea are in so much trouble. They needed to score 5 to secure their first win of the season a fortnight ago, which is not a recipe for long-term success. Manager Bob Bradley's described December as a critical month. They play 5 of the bottom 10 teams in their next 6 games, starting with resurgent Sunderland this weekend. The Black Cats are perennial relegation battlers, but have the advantage of a prolific goal provider in their ranks. Jermaine Defoe's played a part in more than 2/3 of their league goals this season. On that score, he's the most influential player for his club in the division and netted his 8th of a campaign in the 2-1 victory over Leicester last time out. The team's 3rd win in 4 lifted them off the foot of the table. Now manager David Moyes has set aside the target of repeating that form in the next 4 fixtures, which will mean improving their away record. They've lost 4 of their last 5 away matches without scoring in any of those defeats.
Following a heavy defeat to Crystal Palace, Southampton will be relieved to be back at home this weekend as 3 of their 4 wins this season have come at St Mary's. Their opponents, Middlesbrough, will look forward to this game as they've lost just once in their last 6 matches, with their win on Monday closing the gap on the Saints to just 2 points. A major part of Aitor Karanka's side's success has been their resilience away from home. Their tally of 8 away goals against is a promising sign, as only 5 teams have ever been relegated after conceding 8 or fewer away goals at this stage.
They play a very technical game, but they make the pitch big. Karanka likes to play his football in a certain way, and it's effective up to a point. Some would say they're a little bit defensive. Clayton in midfield sits very deep in front of the back 4. But I think it's sensible to be controlled in how they play, especially at the outset of the season.
Oriol Romeu and Adam Clayton will be relied on to protect their defensive lines this weekend. The Saints man has made the 4th highest amount of tackles in the league, whilst Clayton has made the joint most tackles out of his midfield teammates, despite missing 2 games. It'll be exactly 12 years since Middlesbrough last travelled to the South Coast club, and that result turned out to be consequential. With the Saints looking set to take all 3 points, Borough struck 2 goals in the final 2 minutes. The draw would come back to haunt Southampton as they were relegated by 2 points at the end of the season.
Earlier in the programme, we asked which Premier League player has scored the most goals from outside the box. The answer is the former West Ham, Chelsea and Manchester City midfielder Frank Lampard. He found the back of the net 41 times from distance, the most lethal player from long range in the Premier League era.
Watford came unstuck against the masters of set pieces West Brom last time out, conceding their 8th goal of the season from a corner. They're also failing to deal with their opponents' crosses from open play. This campaign they've shipped 11 goals from wide balls, at least 3 more than any other top-flight team. Their poor defending has contributed towards their bad run of form, with just 1 win in their last 4 games, conceding 11 goals in that time. At Vicarage Road, it's a similar story, as they've only kept 1 clean sheet in their last 12 Premier League home games. The last of that run also saw them fail to score on home turf for the first time since March. This weekend, they come up against an opponent with a player who's also struggling to find the back of the net, especially when playing away. Everton's Romelu Lukaku has scored in just 4 of his last 18 Premier League appearances away from Goodison Park. He'd scored in 8 games of the 18 prior to that. Much like their opponents, the Toffees have had their own defensive problems. In their last 10 Premier League games, Ronald Koeman's side have kept just 1 clean sheet, recording 2 wins in that time. Like Lukaku, the side are also struggling away from home, having picked up just 1 point in their last 5 trips, scoring only 2 goals in those games.
So 10 fixtures to savour to come, with Watford kicking off the action at home to Everton. Fresh from their comeback heroics, Bournemouth travel to Burnley, while it's a battle at the bottom as Swansea host Sunderland. 4 games on Sunday start with league leaders Chelsea taking on West Brom. Liverpool against West Ham rounds things off. As the season heads into a busy fortnight that brings some key midweek fixtures, there'll be even more highs and lows for the hard-pressed men in charge. Some are attempting to steer their sides away from danger or lift them to new heights. But whether it's towards the bottom of the pile or at the very top, the pressure never lets up for the men who must carry the weight of Premier League expectations. Until next time, from Dave Farrer, me, Dave Beckett, and everyone on the Matchpack team, goodbye.